Pisces, welcome to your February 2026 horoscope. My name is Adeana. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and in this video, we're going to go through all of the energy you will be navigating for the month of February. This year, we are in for a lot of change, and this is where it all begins. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you align with my energy and enjoy my content. Now let's get right into it. So I do break these horoscopes down by week, and I select a chart for each week to give you a bit of a visual. So coming right into the month, on the 1st of February, we have our full moon in Leo at 13 degrees. This is taking place in your sixth house of work, health, and daily routine. Now, this is going to be the last lunation in Leo that's not an eclipse for the next 2 years, as we have the nodes entering Leo and Aquarius come July. So I will be making a separate forecast going into the nodes entering Leo and Aquarius and how that will be affecting all 12 rising signs. Check out the 2026 horoscopes for your sign. And I do get into that energy. However, when the nodes are transiting a certain area of our life, which you have the North Node in your first house. So you've been going through massive changes when it has to do with you and your one-on-one connections, you and Virgo rising. It's very powerful when we have the nodes transiting the first. But that story is it's not going to end this year because our final eclipse is in Virgo, the beginning of 2027. We'll have our final eclipse in Pisces in August. But as we reach the end of the year, we will start to feel these changes close out as these new changes begin in these areas of life. And how these work, I've been tracking the nodes for a while, and when the nodes are transiting a certain area of our life, there is a story that is playing out. And every time we have an eclipse, there is more to that story coming in. Um, so it's actually quite interesting, whether it is like a sudden shift or there is just something kind of new that comes in that shifts your direction in some way, or kind of adds on to it's like another milestone of this huge kind of playing out. So when the nodes enter your sixth and 12th house, you are going to go through massive changes when it has to do with your work, health, and daily routine. And then your 12th house, this is very karmic, very fated. This is about isolation. This is about letting go of any self-undoing or self-sabotaging behaviors, where you can get in your own way. And so when we have this for the entire month of February, because we will have our first eclipse in Aquarius this month, pay attention to what is showing up because this can give you an idea of what these changes are going to be. So starting, with this full moon in Leo, even though it's not an eclipse, I think there can still be like some things kind of bubbling to the surface. So definitely pay attention to what is showing up. On the 3rd, we have our Uranus station. Now, usually Uranus will be stationing direct, and this is in your 3rd house. Now, Uranus has been moving back and forth over these degree points for about a year. So, whatever you've been moving through, I would say around these 3rd house themes or topics. So, the 3rd house rules community, neighbors, neighborhood, siblings, cousins, vehicles, local travel. Also, the 3rd house rules your mindset, speaking, reading, writing, all of those themes and topics. And so, whatever Uranus has really changed here the last 8 years, there could be like a final, excuse me, a final hurrah with the station. This is usually, though, when we feel something more on a worldly collective way, not necessarily individual way, but if there is anything intense you've been navigating when it has to do with those themes and topics at the time of this Uranus station, that is where there can just be something else coming in, or there could be something clicking, or something just kind of piecing together and making sense at that time. On the 5th, we have Mercury squaring Uranus. So Mercury is in your 12th house and is going to form a square to Uranus. Mercury rules your 4th house of home, family, property, and real estate, and also your 7th house of relationships and one-on-one connections. So this can bring something in very sudden, that has to do with either home, family, property, or real estate, or a one-on-one relationship. Even a business partner, or just all your close one-on-one connections kind of reside in that seventh house. And Mercury being the ruler of that 7th house, kind of squaring Uranus, there is just that possibility of there being something very unexpected, something very disruptive. You also may have some type of conversation that could be quite shocking. And with it being in your 12th house, I would say this would be like a time where you hear a secret that is shocking or um, something even to like if there's been secrets around you and you've kind of felt like, okay, something is off. This may be the day that you like where the truth kind of is exposed. And then on the 6th, we've got Mercury entering Pisces. So as we move through the month, all this energy in the 12th house will shift into your first house. So you are actually in this kind of period of isolation, of pulling back from the world, of kind of regrouping, having all this energy in the 12th house. Now, once all the energy kind of shifts into your first, that's when you'll gain your energy back. And I feel like things will start to piece together whatever it is that you're contemplating, whatever it is that you're working on. So when Mercury enters that first house, now maybe you're focusing more on your one-on-one relationships or focusing more on home, family, property, real estate, or maybe you're communicating a little bit more. Um, and then on the 8th, we've got Venus forming a square to Uranus. And so Venus is the ruler of your third house, and also the ruler of your eighth. Now, your eighth house rules your partner's finances, money coming in from outside resources, taxes, inheritance, also psychological healing and transformation. And the eighth house also rules secrets as well. Interesting, right? And so for you guys, I think there really could be like a lot of secrets revealed this month, or a lot of things that were hidden revealed. But when Venus forms the square to Uranus, there could be, I would say, like, please make sure you're driving safe all month. Because we do have the Mars square to Uranus as well, and you have Uranus in that third house. So for you guys, like, just make sure safe driving, because this is kind of accidents here. So just be careful. This can also be maybe something sudden that your partner is having to deal with their finances, or maybe something unexpected coming in around a bill or a loan or debt, or money, of some kind that you're just having to address. Then we get to week 2, and on the 10th, we've got Venus entering Pisces. So Venus is going to enter your first house. And I always find when Venus enters the first house, we start to focus a little bit more on our hair, nails, clothes, or change our appearance in some way. So that can definitely be a thing. Um, on the 11th, we will have Mercury enter pre-shadow, and this is when Mercury reaches the degree point that Mercury is going to retrograde back to. So we want to start to pay attention to what is showing up from now until Mercury stations retrograde, because that can give you an idea of what you will be revisiting and reevaluating during the Mercury retrograde. On the 12th, we have Mercury forming a conjunction to the North Node. Now, when we have planets conjunct the North and South Node, there can be very fated and karmic events. These are days that we want to be more aware of the conversations we're having, the people we're running into and connecting with, information we're receiving, because it may feel insignificant at the time, but it may come back around later on and be quite useful or insightful. And then on the 13th, we've got Saturn entering Aries. And so make sure you check out my Saturn and Neptune in Aries video. I get into all of the energy for Saturn and Aries, and or Saturn, Neptune and Aries, and how it can show up in the world, past events, and also how it can affect all 12 rising signs. So make sure you check that out. And then also make sure you check out the horoscopes too for 2026, because I get into it a bit in that video as well. But you have Aries in your second house of money, finances, and personal values. And so, over the next couple of years, there's going to be a lot of changes with your finances, whether you have to become more responsible, or whether there's like a maturity level at some point, like in your spending. And I'm sure for some of you it will, because there's all ages that have these rising signs, right? And I'm sure for some people, there's going to be a level of maturity when it has to do with spending and what you're spending your money on. And then for some people, there can be more responsibility around money. There could be limitation around money, more restriction, because that's what Saturn is. Saturn is that planet of limitation, restriction, and can sometimes bring challenge. But Saturn does always make us grow up and mature in some way, shape, or form. And there's always lessons. There's always lessons with Saturn. And if we push back, it just becomes harder. And then in the third week of the month, on the 16th, we have the Sun squaring Uranus and Mercury trine Jupiter. So the Sun square Uranus is a day where we can experience a bit of anxiety, or we can have epiphanies or insight whenever the Sun is connecting to Uranus. Now, when it has to do with a square, and because at this point the Sun's still going to be in the 12th house, you may feel anxious or overwhelmed at this point. So you may, yeah, just be aware of this day, that this could be a day where you are feeling a little bit overwhelmed. And then with the Mercury trine to Jupiter, um, you have Jupiter retrograde in your fifth house. Now, your fifth house rules like children, creativity, romantic connections, and romance. I look at dating in the fifth house, like those close um, one-on-one connections, like those solid relationships and marriage. But I look at dating in like the fifth house. Anyone that you're not in like a solid commitment partnership kind of is in that fifth house I look at. So it could be something around that. But with this Jupiter retrograde, what I feel a lot of this is that whatever it is that you've been processing, um, there's like a shift. So it may become a bit easier, or your mindset around it may shift a little bit to where you're looking at it in a new, more positive, uplifting way, which then helps you kind of navigate that, whatever it is you're processing, a bit easier, a bit better. And then on the 17th, we have our solar eclipse in Aquarius at 28 degrees. And so, again, we want to pay attention what is showing up the entire month of February, because this is going to give us an idea of what the next 2 years is going to look like with these changes. But this eclipse is in your 12th house, and the 12th house rules things, people, places that are hidden, hospitals, asylums, retreat centers, self undoing, self sabotaging, where you can get in your own way, where you can self undo. um, Karma is in the 12th house. Also, past lives, dreams. You may find actually having a lot of that energy in the 12th house, the beginning of the month, that sleeping was difficult or dreaming was a bit um, not difficult, but maybe more active. Like maybe you were having more dreams or more vivid dreams. Whenever we have energy in that 12th, we always want to pay attention to our dreams. But it's also when we can maybe struggle sleeping as well. But you do want to pay attention to kind of what you're navigating at this time, because that's going to give you an idea of the changes that are going to take place the next 2 years. Now, also on that day, we have Venus forming a conjunction to the North Node. So, again, this is a day to just kind of be aware of, pay attention to what is showing up for you, what is coming in. On the 18th, we have the Sun entering Pisces. So, the Sun is going to enter your first house. You may start to get some of your energy levels back and feeling more active. You're ready to kind of move forward with something. Now, there's just a lot of focus on you and possibly a new direction that you're moving in. And then on the 20th, we have the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. And so we are all going through some type of reset and rebirth this year. And it all starts now. And so, you have this happening in your second house of your money, finances, and material possessions. And so your personal values too could be going through a massive shift. Now, Neptune tends to make things a little bit foggy, a little bit confusing. The areas that it's transiting in. So the good thing is that we have Saturn here to kind of help create some boundaries and solidity and ground for us to stand on. So we definitely want to utilize the Saturnian energy the next 2 years while we have it, because Neptune just dissolves all boundaries. And so it's kind of good that Saturn's here to kind of balance it out a little bit. On the 22nd, we have Venus forming a trine to Jupiter. And so I really like this because this is a really beautiful supportive energy kind of in the mix of all this chaos. Venus is going to be in your first house, forming a trine to Jupiter retrograde. Again, this can be, I really feel like something like there's a lot of internal wisdom being gained, I feel like here with all the personal planets in Pisces forming a trine to Jupiter. I feel like there's like a lot of wisdom, a lot of internal processing going on many levels, and there's like a leveling up. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. So keep that in mind. Then we get to the fourth week of February, and on the 25th, we will have Mercury station retrograde. And so this is going to be in your first house. So with this Mercury retrograde, there's something you're reevaluating when it has to do with you, your life direction, possibly something that you're having to navigate around your physical body. There is something that you are rethinking or reevaluating when it has to do with you, your life direction. Again, anything that you've had to kind of address a few weeks leading up until this point, that'll give you a good idea of what you will be revisiting and reevaluating. On the 27th, we have the sun forming a conjunction to the north node. I really love this because the sun only connects to the nodes twice a year, once to the north node, once to the south node. And the lunar nodes primarily work with the sun and the moon. So yes, we do have these planetary conjunctions to the nodes, which can bring in a insight or clarity or support of some kind. But when we have the sun conjunct the north node once a year, there really is something powerful that comes in to help with whatever it is you've been navigating through this change that the nodes and eclipses have started for you and triggered. So you do want to pay attention on this day with this sun conjunction to the north node. And then we have Mars squaring Uranus, which is going to be really crazy. Like I do think this is going to be a month of crazy weather, crazy storms, power outages. I think this will be a day too where that amps up and we hear, power outages or crazy weather of some kind. I also think that this can trigger stuff around the stuff that's going on in Minnesota, like riots and just people kind of fighting for certain rights and freedoms and beliefs. Now, for us on an individual level, we want to look at the house that is ruled by Mars. And so you have Mars rules your second house of money, finances, and material possessions. And we also want to keep in mind now that the Mars transits have a different feel because of the Saturn-Neptune in Aries, right? So as Mars transits through the zodiac, um, it's going to trigger different energies and activate different things in a sense. Um, so yeah, the Mars square to Uranus, I do think it could in some way even have to do with like war, to be honest. But I do think we're going to see a lot of crazy stuff with weather. Now, for you, this could be something that shows up unexpectedly around your finances. Um, Also something that possibly shows up unexpectedly. Like I would not recommend traveling. Mars is the co-ruler of your ninth house of long distance travel. So I would not recommend traveling at this time. But we do just want to be careful of driving, of accidents. Just be cautious and tread lightly during Mars square Uranus transits because it's just we're in this energy of like accidents and unexpected things. So, but yeah, but that ninth house also rules like higher education, higher knowledge, your belief systems, and so it could trigger something around that as well. Then on the 28th, we have Venus forming a conjunction to Mercury retrograde. So there may be some type of conversation on this day that you're having with someone. What I will say is that because Mercury is retrograde, just be careful that there's no misunderstandings. Just make sure that people are hearing you clearly, and that you have clarity on what others are saying because something could be triggered based off of a misunderstanding. And then we also have Mars activating the eclipse point as well. So we're going to have that eclipse in Aquarius at 28 degrees, and then Mars is going to hit that 28th degree and activate that eclipse point. So if anything was activated or going on at that eclipse, it could be reactivated when Mars hits it and bring more in to what was already going on. So there could be like another event or something else coming in. And again, I think this is going to be worldly. We're going to see something, whether it's war, whether it's violence, whether it's something with the government, and then weather storms and things like that. Like this month, I think is really big for that. Okay, Pisces. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I hope this helps you navigate the energy for the month of February. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you align with my energy and enjoy my content, and I will connect with you in the next one.